I would like to believe we are the first new space startup in Luxembourg. You had space companies in Luxembourg before, you had SMEs, but as new space, 2016, I was one of the early ones.
You started OQ Technology alone as a solo founder. How come?
It was difficult actually, and entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and space entrepreneurship is just another level.
Space is humanity's greatest laboratory. Defense is democracy's strongest shield. And today, in workshops, in laboratories, in startups, a new generation rises, not to observe history, but to write it, where every innovation above drives progress below, where every breakthrough in defense preserves our freedom to create. Behind every breakthrough stands a founder with a story. Now these stories emerge to light the path for those who follow. Welcome to Rockets and Radars.
Welcome to Rockets and Radars. Before we dive in, grab your drink, in your case, water, in my case, coffee, and let's get comfortable. You went from working 18 years at major space organizations like DLR, ESA, OHB, and CES to founding the world's first satellite 5G IoT operator and launching a constellation that's connecting industrial assets beyond cellular coverage. I want to understand not just the company story, but also the person behind this journey, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So let's get into it. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you very much, Martin. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for inviting me on your podcast. So my name is Omar Qaise. I'm the founder and CEO of OQ Technology. OQ Technology is a satellite operator, the world's first low Earth orbit 5G non-terrestrial network satellite operator out of Luxembourg in Europe. We provide cellular connectivity direct to device and direct to smartphone using 5G connectivity and our low Earth orbit satellite constellation.
Okay, let's get into the very beginning, even before you started the company. Your correct career path took you through DLR, ESA, OHB, and CES. How did each role you participate in prepared you for founding OQ Technology? I just want to understand what was going on in your head and how your career prepared you to become a founder in the end.
Thanks for the question. So since the beginning, when I started my career, I always dreamt about space and being an astronaut when I was a kid, that like the typical child's dream. So I tried to pursue always my education, my career towards working in the space field because it's very fascinating. And when I started working at the German Aerospace Center on satellites, I had in mind that at some point I would like to actually participate and bring something into the space industry. And to do this, entrepreneurship is the path forward, of course. But I wanted to spend some years learning, building a network across different space industries, also learning about the business side, not just the engineering side. So I started my career in engineering, specifically on satellite telecommunications. Through the journey I had with working with agencies like DLR, and then working at the industry like OHB Systems, working at the European Space Agency, that gave me a strong background with respect to satellite engineering, satellite operations, and the whole value chain of upstream and downstream of the space industry. Working then later on in SES gave me the exposure to the business side of the satellite and the space industry, which was also accompanied by doing an MBA to understand more about the business side. And also with my career in SES, I managed to have a good view into the satellite telecommunication market. Now, the most important thing is that with the emergence of new space, there was a window of opportunity here in order to do something in the space industry as a startup. And I always looked into nanosatellites as a potential asset that can unlock a lot of innovative applications, whether it's Earth observation, telecommunication, and I was looking for the right killer app that can be used with nanosatellites. And 2016, actually, I took the decision to pursue my dream of starting a company in space and really bringing something new to the world. And there was the perfect time where there was a lot of a potential towards the Internet of Things and connectivity of low-power devices into the network through low Earth orbit satellites. And these could work with 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 nanosatellites. I did work out the link budget on a napkin paper, and I thought, wow, it works, and that's something we could do. And it was very interesting time because there were many different technologies, like you had standardized and non-standardized technology as Sigfox, LoRa, and so on. And I decided also to investigate all these technologies and also include 5G within this. And this was actually even before 5G was standardized for satellite communication. So I kind of like had the vision into the future that this will be used as a standard for satellite communication. The issue was also you have a lot of devices connecting to the internet more than people, but they are all confined and restricted to the reach of the cellular towers in urban areas. But beyond the cell tower in remote rural areas, in the seas, you don't have any connectivity solution that works with cellular. And this is why also I looked into the idea of using cellular to roam seamlessly with mobile devices. And that's how the OQ was born.
Amazing. Well, you launched on January 2016, where you founded OQ Technology in Luxembourg. And I'm very curious, why did you choose Luxembourg in the first place versus any other location within Europe?
So, when I was working in CS in Luxembourg, of course, I had a good exposure. I was already living in Luxembourg, but I think like after considering many European countries and looking at that time at the potential, it was Luxembourg offered a lot of tools, a lot of capabilities in order to start a space company and to be supported by different programs in Luxembourg. And it was also time where Luxembourg was considering also space as strategic for the country. And this actually helped a lot in taking this decision. I had also the direct access to decision makers to pitch the idea and the potential behind, which is something very valuable also here in Luxembourg. And I would like to believe we are the first new space startup in Luxembourg. You had space companies in Luxembourg before, you had SMEs, but as new space, 2016, I was one of the early ones that started talking to the government, to the stakeholders, using nanosatellites in LEO for this purpose and creating a satellite operator in Luxembourg more based on LEO and new space. And this is where I decided to, stay and continue building the company here. And, now we're 9 years old soon, and company has expanded globally, but still headquartered with majority of the creativity, of the IP, of the people in Luxembourg.
If you would start in 2025, would you again choose Luxembourg as the HQ?
It's a very good question. And, there are a lot of things that have changed over the years. Luxembourg still offers a lot. It's still very entrepreneurial and dynamic. However, there are also a lot of challenges, and a lot of countries are also trying to recreate the model of space economy and attracting companies. So the competition is very high. Whether I would reconsider creating the company, I would say if the challenge could be addressed, that, as a company today, especially as scale-ups where we are going right now, yes, I would do that. And I do work closely also to make sure that, these challenges are addressed in Luxembourg for us as a space company. And again, you could still see that the access to decision makers, the innovation and finding solutions to different issues is still there. So that's a good news. But I always say that, a lot more still needs to be done to make sure Luxembourg keeps their competitive position with respect being a space country.
Despite the small size of the country, I think even right now, Luxembourg has the base capabilities for the commercial side of building a space company. I hope you agree. It's just crazy what a small country could do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you have the willingness, if you have the vision, if you have the people in government that support it, you can do amazing stuff. And Luxembourg could be small in surface area on Earth, but very big in space.
Okay, you started OQ Technology alone as a solo founder. How come? Have you been thinking about getting Any co-founders?
Yeah, actually I did, but I think the entrepreneurial mindset is very it's not for everyone, and this is something in the DNA. And when I started, most of the people I knew, they come from corporate world, they are more risk averse, and I wished I had a co-founder when I started, but people see this always as a risk, and at that time, 2016, like space startups is not yet something for everyone, and it's still not, but at least you see a lot of people going into the startup and independence direction. So it was difficult actually, and also finding the right co-founder to go with. But at some point, I had to take the decision to start the company, and I had to take risk. To be entrepreneur, you need to have the appetite for risk, and yeah, that's why entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and space entrepreneurship is just another level also.
And after 9 years of building the company, like if you went back to the beginning, would you spend the extra time to find somebody, or would you just start again alone? What do you think?
I would say I'll start again also. Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's like
Speed.
yeah, speed, exactly. If you miss the opportunity, then it's an issue. And especially in space right now, things have moved very fast. What we thought about in the past that may not happen, it happened. 5G became a standard for satellites, and a lot of new players, but big players also are considering this. And now it's a race, and we're very proud to be the European leader in this field.
Okay, awesome. So nearly 1 month after starting the company, you secured your first ESA contract. How come could you win this institutional funding so early?
So it required some preparation, and this is actually institutional funding under the Luxembourg government Luxempulse program. So actually, presenting the use cases, the customers, and the technology behind the concept and the potential behind allowed me to secure that contract and start assessing, which technology to use and how the constellation will be and so on. And that's actually helped us a lot to de-risk a lot of the technical risks at the early days of the company, thanks to this program, which is still a program that exists in Luxembourg. I was still a user of it for other things.
How did the company look back then, actually? So you got the ESA contract, you were doing let's call it feasibility study. What was in your head? What were your goals back then? And what about the first hiring? I just want to understand, like, if we looked at the company at 2016 from a helicopter, like, what would we see?
Yeah, I actually had to do everything myself, even the website and everything, and the profiles and writing the jobs. But I managed slowly to get some help also from friends, some people who were also involved at the beginning, but from remotely. And then we managed to attract at the beginning the people who were young people enthusiastic about space and what we are doing. I still remember, like, we were still very picky, like we would give exercises and space problems to solve for candidates because I want to get the best of the best. And, some of these people are still here and they are also executives in the company. And this is how it started. But the interesting thing is we passed all the initial European Space Agency technical assessment and phases successfully with a small team and a small budget. And that was encouragement for us to continue forward and that we are moving in the right direction.
You said that you were very, very picky with the candidates, with the first hires. I would love to understand, what are you looking for in those first people? Like, what were you thinking about? Like, this is what they have to have. Those are the qualities. Was it skills or was it something else?
Passion for space. That's the number thing. We are in a very special industry. You don't come to work in the space industry if you don't have a passion. If you don't have that passion, then you're in the wrong industry. And I think that's the important thing, because you need that passion to pull all-nighters and work hard and go through the stress of starting and working in a space company. And this is the most important factor that comes first before everything else.
Totally agree. And how do you find out who is more passionate than the other?
Experience I spent in multiple space agencies and in companies and different countries gave me somehow a vision, because I met a lot of brilliant people who share the same mindset, the same passion and thinking, and I think that's something you can easily see.
Okay, awesome. We are going further in the timeline. January 2017, you secured around 200K from ESA again for LEO constellation simulation. I was curious, what were you trying to validate with this money?
Yeah, so it's actually the different stages of building a satellite constellation and proving technology. So going through phase A, then phase B, and so on. And the most important thing is really validating which technology to use for satellites. And it came down to three technologies: Sigfox, LoRa, and narrowband IoT, which it was the older release at that time, release 13. How can we make them work with satellite? Which one is scalable? And the answer was like 5G technology, MBRT, is scalable, and this is what we decided to go with. There was a lot of hype about Sigfox and LoRa and so on, but with time, if we see like Sigfox, it does not exist anymore. LoRa is more restricted towards, did not scale up as MBOT and 5G now, because when cellular, everyone uses cellular technology because it's standard. And if we have a standard similar to cellular on the satellite world, everyone will use it. And that's actually what happened. So the 5G over satellite is an extension of the terrestrial 5G. And now you see like it's kicking in. Now, even the bigger players are under threat to lose their market dominance position if they don't look into this direct-to-device 5G solutions and business.
You mentioned NB-IoT or Narrowband IoT a few times. For those that are listening, they might not know what it is. Can you give us a quick words, a glimpse into the technology?
Yeah, so the narrowband IoT, I would say it's the flavor of the 5G connectivity, which is dedicated towards messaging from devices that operate on a battery that are low power. So it's different than broadband, where you have voice calls, video, and internet. It's really for sensors, for example, trackers or machines that need to communicate and send alarms or messages, and they need to stay on a battery for many years, and they need to communicate with the minimum messaging requirement on a mass scale in millions. It's different than broadband communication, and that's actually what the narrowband IoT was put forward for us within the 4G and then the 5G later on to address Internet of Things connectivity.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I would love to tap into the topic of ESA contracts. So by that time, you got around 300K in worth of ESA contracts for founders, the other space founders that might be in the very beginning of their journey. Would you have any advice or thoughts on what is the best way to approach those contracts based on your experience throughout the years?
I think it's very important to, once you get into the types of technical development and excellence of such contracts, you need always to keep in mind the commercial aspect of it, the business aspect of it, because that's what you need in future to sell. And also at the same time, you need to be very vigilant about the timeline and when you can go from, let's say, the initial product development or technology proof into the commercial stage. It's always better if you have this as a continuous cycle of customer discovery plus product discovery and development, and that would be my advice, because we are, as engineers, sometimes we just love to build things and get sucked into the technical and forget about the most important things, which is the business.
And actually, all Luxembourgish space companies, including yourself, are commercial first, which is interesting to see, actually.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Throughout the years, you filed for several patents. How important was patenting this technology in comparison if you didn't do it?
Cellular standards and 3GPP business is all built on patents for companies. Qualcomm has patents for 4G and for 5G that currently exist in this 3GPP standard, and And, big companies also try to push their patents to be part of the standard. That's how it works. And if we are getting into the cellular world over satellite, we need to make sure also what we do is patented and can be part of the standard. And that gives you a huge leverage, a big barrier to entry, but also potentially royalties in future. And when we started looking how we can make a cell device or a cellular sensor works with a low Earth orbit satellite that's very fast, moving like with 7 kilometers per second, there are certain things you have to do in order to make that work. And today, if you're on the plane or you're in a very fast, probably in a train it will work, but in the plane it won't work anymore. That you can use your phone with the cell tower. How about a satellite? Is much faster than that and further in space. So how do you do that? And we thought, what can we do to change what we do and so on? And these aspects, I realized at the very early days, and also with the team that we had, that we need to check first the state of art and what has been done before, and whether we can patent this. And we spoke to experienced lawyers who understand this field. We we had good results at the beginning that to proceed and file through Luxembourg, and that was 2019. And as we moved on, indeed, with the assessment from the US Patent Office and Trademark Office and the European Patent Office, the aspects, the claims we had were innovative in the field of 5G over low Earth orbit satellites. And we managed to get these claims granted. And to our surprise, also, some of these claims are also part of the 5G NTN standard today, because there's only one or two ways you can that work, and we thought about it very early and we patented that. So it really has a value that it's still difficult to tell how big that is, because it could be very huge value and a big barrier to entry also.
No, definitely. And I'm very curious, when you start filing for patents, you haven't raised your seed round yet. So how could you afford the IP lawyers back then?
Yeah, so we are always very smart in how we spend things. Plus, we did have budget allocated to that from from the basic funding that we have. Plus, there are also instruments and tools that we use that helps us in securing this. But it's not very exhaustive cost at the beginning. Maintaining that and expanding this is where the costs kick in. But at least securing the date and the claims, this is the most important now, that can be done easily if you have the full idea of what you're trying to do. But then, as I said, as you move on and to maintain it and expand it, this is where the cost kick in. But it's very important to move early on and patent the idea and the concept.
You have a lot of experience with IP and patents. So I was curious if there is one key advice for, again, founders that are early in their journey and they would love to patent their technology because they decided, what would be your key advice for them?
I would say don't wait till you have all the details and the full idea. You should, because maybe you are playing the devil's advocate role for yourself, but what you have already good enough to be patented. So speak to a lawyer, assess, and it's important to secure a date where you patent. But it's very important to also understand what's the first step, what's the state of the art, what's has been done before, so that you do have a chance to have something innovative that can be patented that no one else patented it before you.
Okay, awesome. Within this timeline, Tiger 1 mission launched. Tell us everything about it that we need to know.
Yeah, so the Tiger 1 mission, which is actually it's 2 satellites, the main idea was to prove that the waveform of NB-IoT in the S-band of 2 gigahertz can work from low Earth orbit of 550 kilometers. This was the you could do all the simulations you want, you could do all the studies you want, but in the end, you need to make sure that you're able to synchronize, you are able to correct the delays of the 5G Narrowband IoT link with a satellite that's moving very fast far away. And that was the purpose. And we managed to prove that for the first time in the world and managed to make contact and decipher the Narrowband IoT waveform. And we published the results of 3GPP. That was 2019, before anyone flew a narrowband IoT waveform in S-band in low Earth orbit. And I would like to say this, we were the first one to do this, and that gave us a lot of knowledge. I mean, we've been through a lot of learning and a lot of mistakes that we had to correct and learn from the technology in orbit and on Earth before we reach this stage. So any company trying now to access that also, they have to go through this whole cycle. And that's actually, I think, one of the most important assets we have in OQ is the experience that we had with cellular communication over low Earth orbit satellites.
It's crazy. You got your flight heritage pretty early. By the way, what was the cost of the mission? Have you been able to cover it through the public grants that you have got so far?
Yeah, it was actually within that budget. Can't remember exactly, but it was, it's part of the program, yeah.
You're very effective with the cash, which is always good to see. 2019, you raised 1.5 million euros seed round for PolySVS Industries. What specific traction points or properties of your company convinced them to give you the check?
I think having this new technology and proving this technology in orbit, plus still today and also at the early days, we were focused on energy, renewable sector, and that's something which is requires a lot of, there's a lot to communicate to satellites, a lot of assets in remote or rural areas that need to communicate. They are mainly machines. And that is actually was an innovative concept that really allowed us to secure the seed round.
If you remember back then, what was your approach to fundraising? How were you thinking about finding investors, contacting them, and convincing them to invest? What was your playbook, if you had any?
Yeah, so every round was different, but I think at the early days it's more marketing the company, the idea, being on trade shows, industrial trade shows, not directly going to VCs. So I'm like it all happened actually by chance. And I think it's once you have a value and you are at the right place, the right time, it will happen. You just need to do your homework. You need to keep trying, and it will come. And that's actually how it happened. And years later, we followed an active approach where we were really contacting the VCs, pitching the idea, building the relationship. And when, of course, as a VC, you have different things in mind that you think about. And when all elements align, then, you realize this is an opportunity that can grow in the future. So that's the approach I took. I've been very active on that. That's one of the things I like to do also. But of course, it's something you can't do alone. You get also help and support from others and advice. Yeah.
Actually, I remember you approached me on one of those trade shows, and I just loved how proactive you were. I didn't say anything. You just brought your laptop and you show me everything in a few minutes, and I just love that. So proactivity is super important. And you mentioned that you attended plenty of trade shows. So I'm curious, what is your approach in trying to figure it out on which trade show to go to? I mean, you couldn't attend all of them at the same time, right? So I was curious, how were you prioritizing?
Yeah, so actually we go to the trade shows where we can sell. So it's actually the applications that we can sell our service to. Maybe a lot of companies will go to space trade shows, but in space trade shows, I mean, you get a lot of people who try to sell you like space things, but here we are in the end delivering connectivity service of 5G for the end user, which could be an oil and gas company, or it could be a logistics or maritime. So energy trade shows, logistic trade shows, these are connectivity, IoT. These are the trade shows that we focus on. Plus, of course, like having presence in space trade shows, but we try to focus where in the countries and also on the applications that we could bring value in.
If you didn't get Aramco deal, which we will get back to later, what did you think would be the potential end customers? And by potential customers, I mean industries. What were your hypotheses back then? Was it oil and gas from day one, or did you think about more broad spectrum different potential applications that you thought could be interesting?
There are 4 active verticals, which from the very beginning I realized we could bring value to, which is the energy, as I said, including the oil and gas, the maritime, the logistics, and agriculture. And these 4 sectors are the ones that I was since the beginning trying to pursue. However, I am very excited about the energy industry and how we can accommodate such industry with all the environmental challenges. How can satellite play a role to enable energy and if being used efficiently and also reduce emissions of and gases of the traditional, let's say, energy industries. And this is where I studied a lot of use cases. I talked to many people, and it was exciting to learn about the challenges companies face in these fields and where we can bring value. And in the end, you're doing something also good for the world, for the climate, for Earth. When you bring such technology into these sectors, I still remember like reading articles where the digital oil field, that it's something very new, and a lot of like applications in the oil and gas industry. It took a long time to get into the digital oil field, implementing new things and so on. So really getting 5G over satellite there had a huge impact. And this is where I wanted also to position the company to, but at the same time, of course, we let's say this is the sector that the fastest that acquired what we have as a service. Plus, we're still, and we have clients like in agriculture, we're in maritime and logistics. These are the other important verticals.
But I like your approach. Like a key insight here is speed.
Yes.
Go for speed. Let's see who takes the fastest and first. So I love that. Okay. Regarding customers, you secured Aramco for monitoring their Gawar oil field. How do you land this huge use case, if you remember, around that time?
First of all, like we have the regions where that we were targeting in order to offer the service. Of course, as a company which has its own satellites, but also its own ITU filings, and we need, let's say, spectrum access and license in different countries. We have been in touch always with the regulators in these countries. In Saudi Arabia, it's being like CST, the Communication and Space and Technology Committee. And of course, they helped us a lot in exploring the innovative part of our technology and how to match that with the needs of the industry in Saudi Arabia. And this is how Aramco came into the picture. And I think we invited to a program where we could demonstrate connectivity over satellites together with that satellite companies. Ours worked from day one. Everyone was happy. And then we started looking into the potential that this can bring. We were in touch in discussions with other VCs also, but of course, having Aramco as a customer, but also potentially as an investor is a big win for us. And we're proud of that, and we look forward to also expanding. We still work together to expand into more things and more use cases.
Very organic. Love that. Okay, great. June 2021, Tiger 2 mission, launch via SpaceX Transporter 2 mission. Can you tell us more about that? That was the next big milestone of your journey, right?
Yes, because that satellite was supposed to demonstrate actual like service and connectivity service, and a lot was done there to meet the timeline. Let's say it was our first actual, like non-demo, but an actual mission that we wanted to do with a small team and a small budget, and it was very exciting. And I remember like the days and the tests we have to do, and flying to US and back, and with all the team. And this is like what built the bond in our company with the team. And we managed to fly that successfully. We managed to use it to demonstrate to different clients that service, including Aramco. And that's was a very big success for us. And I'm very, very happy, very proud of it. It got launched just shortly after my son was born, and
nice.
we put his name on the satellite, and
even
okay, and
cool.
I went to attend the launch also, but he was just a few months old. He couldn't realize
also great
what's going
timing.
on.
in the whole journey of the company. Great timing when starting and also with this launch. Okay, if we move forward to a huge milestone again, September 2022, when you secured Series A round of 13 million euros co-led by EIC Ventures, who are belonging to Aramco, right? And Feisto's investment fund. Tell us, how did this deal come together in the first place?
So just like in any other fundraise campaign, you're in touch with different investors, and of course, when you start having like a term sheet and negotiations, and it's always good to have multiple investors in the company, and combining both a financial investor but also a strategic investor is always good. So you got like opportunities from both worlds and experience of both worlds, and that's how the deal happened. Yeah, that's how it came into.
You said that every funding round was different. So I'm very curious, how, in your opinion, the seed round was different from the Series A?
Yeah, I think it depends on your approach, of course, and what you're looking for. So with the seed round, it was more like towards starting doing basic pilots with clients and expanding capabilities, going to trade shows and so on. On the Series A, you're more like now your brand is known, people know what you're doing. So it's following an active approach to go to VCs, but also talk to the potential customer who see value if they can also invest in the company. That's the difference compared to the seed round. And then you're trying to get to the next stage and grow. That's the difference.
And regarding capital effectivity, how did you, in very light terms, use the money per each round? Like, what was your focus on putting the capital after the seed round and after the Series A? Just curious there.
Yeah, so for us, it was very important to during the seed round, it mainly went towards the initial missions of Tiger 2 and Tiger 3 and so on to get the customers. On the second one, it's more like towards like expanding the fleet and towards getting more talent and building more assets in the company to be able to deliver the service. And of course, managing this wisely with building good relationship with your suppliers, so that negotiating that and keeping working with the same suppliers if you have a close relationship with all that helps, of course, and being mindful about your spending and about we're as a startup, you still, especially in space, you have a long way before you get to profitability. So that's how we do it. Yeah.
Over the whole funding journey, have you had any like huge challenges, failures, or in other words, fuck ups since the very beginning? If you remember anything.
If I speak in general, indeed, there regulatory challenges with respect to spectrum had been a big difficulty that we were unaware of at the beginning when we started. And for people, even if you look at the business side and at the technical side, there's still the regulator side that can kick in without the expectation. It could stop the whole thing. And that actually like threatened the company at the very early days. But we managed to resolve this, and also, of course, with fundraising, the more it's always bad when you receive a rejection or letter or something. You have to learn to live with that, and you always keep how much is my runway, when I'm going to close my funding, what I'm going to do. We see over the years it's getting more difficult and more difficult, compared to before. But I think, luckily we didn't have like a huge, let's say, as you mentioned, failures that could, be detrimental to the company. And I've seen companies that start the same time as us, same field competitors, but they ended up, disappearing again, or being zombie companies. And I think this is why we are very careful how we move, where it's important also to go to the focus and go to the right direction, not overspend but also not underspend. and having the right markets that you want to go to. We're commercially focused, business focused. We maybe we don't make as much noise as the others, but we do deliver and we do have functional
Love that.
service in space. Yeah.
Okay, great. Value first, commercial first. I love this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's get back more into the present moment. By March 2024, you launched the Batch 1 Constellation. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the idea was to have like, Batch 1, total of 10 satellites, to have them functional in order to provide service to clients, basic service. Of course, we would need more satellites in order to expand. And that was, of course, a moment of triumph for us. And you start, interacting with customers, start to deliver service and, hitting the market. It's at every stage of startup this comes in. And it comes, of course, with its own challenges, but that's the thing I like about startups. Every stage it's like a new episode, and you have new things going on, and you learn more, and you feel you make new achievements in a new field.
Yeah, things change so fast, right? That
Yeah.
it's very hard to make long-term plans actually in this industry. Like if you talk about new space, like so many things change in the last 10 years, right? Especially in Europe. One more thing. So before we get into the win in the EIC Accelerator that you just got a few days ago, on 20th October 2024, you secured 10 million convertible note from Luxembourg-ish Space Sector Development Fund, as well as SCS and existing investors that you already had supported you. How has your fundraising approach evolved by this point since the very beginning? What were the things that you repeated again, and what are the things that you didn't repeat because that didn't work? Just curious about the evolution of how did you approach fundraising?
So the convertible was part of our Series B, which is still ongoing right now. It came from Luxembourg Space Sector Development Fund, which SES part of. So it's not it's part of that fund and the existing investors. It actually a big change happened that direct to smartphone connectivity became a big thing around the world, especially in the US. And we actually got a contract also with the Luxembourg government and the European Space Agency to study the upgrade of the payload from NB-IoT, but to deliver direct to smartphone connectivity. And that was also Space News. And we made good progress there. And this actually entitled us that, we have something new. It's also innovative. We are well positioned to lead that as a European company. Let's go that direction. We need some more money. It's going to be part of our Series B for this upgrade of our satellites and payloads. And that's how the convertible came. And that's actually what, led later now to that we found ourselves as a European company that is leading the path towards direct to smartphone in addition to direct to device IoT. And competing with US players that are already beta testing this service. So we are in a very good position today to be an independent European infrastructure satellite operator for this service.
Which is legendary, which is great for the whole European ecosystem. Okay, let's get into the 20 days ago. You won EIC Accelerator from the European Union backed, accelerator, right? To support efforts to connect smartphones via, as you mentioned, direct to cell technology. I'm just curious, if we compare EIC to anything else that you approached before, so convertible notes and other funding sources, how to approach EIC if you compare it with anything else?
Yeah, so I think this instrument from the European Union is a very important instrument, and for deep tech companies that need to scale, that have important technology and service for a European market and European countries. It's very competitive, and I hope to see in future this pool of money also increase. It's because you compete with all the companies, the startups across all industries, across all Europe. And it was, it's part of the Horizon. I think we got a Horizon in the past, it's amazing 6G project, but it was within a big consortium. We were one of the participants in it, and we won that. It's about, studying 6G over satellite 6G deployment in Europe. So the EIC we got some experience with that. Now the EIC was very competitive. It's very important to highlight the value of what you're doing there for the European market and European stakeholders. Now, stars are aligned that with the current geopolitical situation, Europe needs to be independent also with its infrastructure and technology. And when we look there, and this was what is for direct to smartphone over satellite, you've got US companies like already testing that, 5 of them, none in Europe, 0. Only OQ is kind of saying we can do this, and we have satellites, we can upgrade them, we can do that. And it has a lot of applications, huge applications, whether it's for, emergency communication, whether it's search and rescue, messaging between people, defense and security. And we brought that up, and in the proposals, and then also later on the interview for the EIC committee. And we, 4 space companies across all Europe were selected. One from Luxembourg, us. It's the first space company in Luxembourg to win the EIC Accelerator Award. It's the 3rd one in Luxembourg since the history of this program. We heard it was announced this was the most competitive round of the EIC. A lot of companies applied. Nevertheless, we managed to win it. So it's a huge win for us. And we won both the grant plus the equity financing in our Series B. So we were very happy to receive this news. And we are very proud to be working with the EU also towards bringing this important technology to the European market.
Amazing. Great journey. Okay, where are you going from now on? Like, what is your short and long-term vision for OQ technology?
So OQ right now, we are finalizing our Series B in order to be able to expand the fleet and start offering both services, the direct to IoT devices and direct to smartphone connectivity. That's something we'll be the first European satellite operator to do that. And I think it has a lot of value for European projects such as IRIS², for example. And we are the pioneers in this field today. So this is on the short term. On the long term, we would like to have to be a constellation that is really a leader globally with any type of cellular communication over satellite, and enabling devices, people, machines, anywhere to connect seamlessly with the same SIM card or same phone they have over satellite, and also with terrestrial networks. That's what we plan to do.
Okay, I will leave your contact information in the description of the episode, so anybody that is interested in your future can quickly get to you to potentially invest. So I hope this episode brings some good leads to you, as well as for people that would love to join OQ potentially. I will also leave that form in the description so people can join you if they would love to. Super. Now it's the last part of the episode, quick fire round questions. The European space ecosystem has evolved since 2016. What specific improvements have you seen, and what still needs to change?
I think realizing the role of new space, and that startups could play a major role in the space industry. This is a big change. I mean, when I started, it was mainly like old space game. Now, startups are in the game. What needs to change is, there's a lot of focus investment on early stage, but you're gonna have companies that evolve and come to the scale-up stage, and this is the stage where they need help. And I think more money and more support need to be given to companies in this stage, such as us, and especially with space, because with space, it's not a software, it's a long cycle until you get your return on investment. The chasm is very wide, and space companies need to have the support in order to cross the chasm and become champions and leaders in their field.
What would 2016 Omar think if he could see OQ technology today?
You know, I'm very ambitious, and I always benchmark myself with people who are in a much higher successful scale. I think, like, if I go back, then I would, try to avoid the mistakes, move much faster, and I would try to accelerate things even more. But I'm still proud of what we have achieved. It's not just individual achievement. It's, it's the people behind, it's the team, it's the investors, it's the partners, it's the government committees, instruments that support companies like us, all play together without them, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing the journey and insights as well, advice. Super interesting journey. Thanks for sharing that. Is there any last thing you would love to say to the whole founder community in the industry?
Yeah, I would say, like, never give up, and really being a founder in the space field is something to be proud of. It's a very interesting journey with its ups and downs. Keep grinding. Support will come at some point, success will come, and it's just important that to continue the journey. That's my message. And it's my message also to the people, the decision makers, the sponsors and the investors. Support those founders. They are, putting years of their life, they're putting effort in order to create amazing things, take civilization to different level, to space. So yeah, that's my message.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks so much
Thanks
for the
a lot.
episode. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Martin. Really pleasure.